Yo, what's up fam? It's Legend and I'm back with another video. What if Naruto was sent to the Jujutsu Kaisen Universe Part 2? If you guys enjoy the content, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe while you at it. The like goal for the video is 6 likes, but if we can get 10 that would be nice. But without further ado, let's get into this intro so we can start this what if. Since Naruto agreed to come with them, Satoru felt it only appropriate that he take the kid to shop for clothes. Besides, he's not paying for it since Hikaru had given him some money, and apparently, Naruto's a stingy teen, buying the cheapest clothes that he could buy, whereas Nobara, who felt slighted that Satoru didn't take him to Roppongi as he had originally planned to, spent almost an entire hour buying various clothes that he had to pay for. Wallet feeling several yen lighter, Satoru led the 4 teens back to the train, where they could now go to Roppongi to exorcise curses. He had to admit, he was very curious as to what Naruto can do, more so than Nobara. He had half a mind to accompany them into the building to oversee it, but he didn't feel like that was necessary. Furthermore, he was more than certain that all teens that he planned to send into the building, Naruto, Nobara, and Yuuji, are more than capable of handling themselves. In other words, he felt too lazy to do it. For fuck's sake, Uzumaki, can you just stop moving? Nobara growled in annoyance as Naruto moved about to crane his head around, looking at all the passengers and outside the window at the setting sun. Naruto shuddered at her tone, for it sounded far too similar to Sakura's when she was pissed off. "Sorry, Kugasaki-chan," he said sheepishly, "it's just I've never been on a train before, so it's kinda a new experience," he said with a smile. Nobara's eyes softened ever so slightly. "HMPH, whatever. Just stop moving so much, it's uncomfortable," she said. "Relax, Kugasaki, let the dude enjoy his first train ride. Besides, we're gonna exorcise a curse, so it's better to take in all the sights, just in case we die," Yuuji said jokingly, making Naruto grin. Yuuji and Naruto hit off instantly. Two hard-headed, cheerful dumbasses who have a tendency to do stupidly noble and rash things in the face of danger. The two were very alike. Well, anyway, Yuuji had taken it upon himself to teach Naruto about this world and didn't mention anything about Naruto not being able to go back to his world, which the ninja very much appreciated. Naruto scoffed. "Die, trust me, Yuuji, I'm hard to kill," he said with a cocky grin. "We've yet to see it," Megumi muttered, not realizing that Naruto had enhanced hearing thanks to his tenant. "But you've heard it," Naruto countered, and Megumi looked at him in surprise. "Yep, I can hear you, Fushiguro. My hearing is pretty good." Satoru interrupted their conversation. "Hikaru-sama told me that you have an attack that can exorcise a first grade instantly. What else can you do?" he asked. Naruto tilted his head in consideration. "A lot. Most of what I can do need a lot of space. I'll show some of it when we fight this curse," he said. Once they reached their destination, Satoru patted Nobara and Yuuji on their shoulders. "Well, you two, you're gonna be doing this on your own. Along with Naruto-kun, of course," he said, smiling brightly. "Wait, what about me?" Megumi asked with a mild frown. "You're still recovering, Megumi. Besides, I wanna see what these two, Nobara-chan especially," he said, nodding at the ginger-haired girl, "can do." But wait, I can't use any jujutsu yet," Yuuji protested. "You're not even going to tell them anything about the location or the curse level?" Megumi asked with a tired sigh, ignoring Yuuji. "I'm getting to that," Satoru said, pouting like a child. "Anyway, Yuuji-kun, since you're the vessel of Sukuna, you're basically a half-curse already. But, you're right, You can't just beat it to death. So, I got you this, he said, pulling a well-crafted blade out of his pocket and holding it out to Yuuji, who took it with stars in his eyes. This is Slaughter Demon. It's a cursed tool, as in, it already has cursed energy infused in it. It should be enough for the curse in this building. Isn't that Zenin Senpai's? Megumi asked, looking at the weapon with furrowed brows. She's gonna kill you when she realizes that you took it without her permission. What? No, I took it with her permission. Satoru protested, and Megumi deadpanned, honest. I didn't steal it. Naruto inspected the blade in Yuji's hands. Huh, damn. It seems well made, he mused, touching the tip of the blonde. Lame, Nobara scoffed. The energy coming off that blade is decent. But like all cursed energy, it feels wrong. Kurama rumbled in his mind. Morning, big guy, and yeah, I'd imagine so, considering cursed energy is formed off of negative emotions. Naruto replied to the mighty being. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's a graveyard nearby, and considering that this is an abandoned building with some history behind it, it's not really that much of a surprise that curses are being drawn to it, Satoru explained. Naruto. There's a life form in the building. Judging by their signature, it's a child. What? We should hurry. Kurama tells me that there's a child inside the building. Naruto interrupted the man's explanation, making him pause and look at him appraising Ly, as the three students looked at him in surprise. Your tenant can sense living beings? Megumi asked. Naruto nodded. Look, I can explain it all to you later. First, we gotta go save him. You two coming or what? He directed that question towards Yuuji and Nobara. Nobara sighed. Fine, let's go, Pinky, she said, nudging Yuuji in the ribs, making the boy grunt in annoyance. Alright, and don't call me that. If there's a hostage, we should go as well, Megumi interrupted. It's alright, Fushiguro, Naruto said, smiling at the raven-haired boy reassuringly. We can handle it, he said firmly. Megumi hesitated while Satoru chuckled. Well, go on then. Make it quick, and Yuuji, don't let Sukuna out. While Naruto might be able to handle it, there's no reason to test it out in such a small space, he said seriously to the boy, who nodded. Naruto, Nobara, and Yuuji quickly entered the building, with the boys lifting the front shutter as Nobara could only do it halfway due to her short height. Naruto gave her a mocking grin, causing her to growl, making him shudder dramatically. Unsurprisingly, the interior of a building that had been abandoned for years was in a shitty condition. Surprise, surprise, the walls were moldy and cracked, with fairly large cracks even in the ceiling. There was no electricity either, so the trio had to rely on what little light shone through the windows from the moon. Nobara turned to the boys. Well, where is the kid? Can your tenant tell us that? She asked, raising an eyebrow pointedly at Naruto. There are two signatures of those vile beings. One is on this floor and another is on the top floor. That's where the kid is, too. Kurama said lazily, laying down his head on his paws. Top floor, but there are two curses in the building. One's. Then we should split up. You two boys search this floor, and I'll search the top floor, she said firmly, her tone booking no arguments. Naruto scowled at her. I was about to say the same thing, he grumbled. Hey, wait, maybe we shouldn't split up. Let's take this a bit more seriously. We should all go together, Yuuji said, frowning at the thought of splitting up in groups. It might be better to confront the curse that has the kid hostage as a whole group. This clearly irked Nobara, who simply kicked the pink-haired boy in the chest, making him fall down rather comically, with Naruto debating whether he should laugh or not. On one hand, it was hilarious to watch someone else go through what he had in the hands of Sakura, but on the other hand, she was kinda scary, and he worried that if he laughed, he'd get the same treatment. Pussy, Kurama mocked. Don't worry about it, We'll be splitting in even numbers. Naruto said with a cocky grin, before forming his favorite hand sign, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He said. Nobara and Yuuji blinked as, in a plume of smoke, another Naruto formed, a perfect replica of the original. The hell, these real, Yuuji said, having seemingly recovered from Nobara's kick. Sure they are, Naruto grinned, pushing the clone slightly, making it stumble and glare. One of us will go with Kugasaki and the other will go with Yuuji. If you're in trouble, the clone will help, but it only takes one hit to destroy it, he explained. Huh, not bad, Nobara said grudgingly as Yuuji simply stared in awe at the two Narutos. Let's go finish this and have some sushi, I'm hungry, the girl said, grabbing the nearest Naruto, which happened to be the original, and pulling him alongside her to the top floor. She then glared at the clone Naruto and Yuuji, who simply stared at the original Naruto, who was flailing his limbs about wildly as he was dragged by the girl. Yuuji and the clone Naruto looked at each other and shrugged. Well, get your butter knife ready, cuz we're gonna slash some shit, the clone said, walking to the nearest door. Yuuji was just about to follow when he saw the two talons on either side of the clone. Without thinking, he tackled the clone, and both boys grunted as they landed the hard way on the ground. The fuck, dude? What? The clone cut himself off when he saw the massive cursed spirit drop to the ground and into view from the ceiling. Both of them stood up, Yuuji holding his blade in reverse grip as Naruto pulled out a kunai. Bleg, this guy is few ugly, clone Naruto remarked, jumping out of the way of a slash. Most of them are, Yuuji agreed. The curse was large, and it looked like some kind of early game monster in some post-apocalyptic video game, with its appearance being an odd crossing of a spider and a crab. The two glanced at each other and were just about to charge it like real men when the curse decided to charge them instead. It rushed towards them, making some kind of garbled sound. Naruto jumped up, flipping gracefully and landing behind it, and Yuuji ducked. Both of them raised their respective blades and stabbed the curse on each end, causing the spirit to emit a loud screech. Naruto jumped back when it abruptly turned around and slashed at him with its talons in retaliation, pulling out a shuriken and throwing a shuriken at it with the force of a baseball pitcher, catching it dead in the eye. Yuuji jumped up himself, performing an extremely impressive 360-degree flip and landed on its back, and stabbed Slaughter Demon directly into the back of its skull, right in its weak point for massive damage. Yuuji jumped off it and landed beside Naruto, both of them watching it as it trashed and squirmed before twitching once and laying still. They grinned at each other, fist bumping. Naruto then suddenly grabbed Slaughter Demon out of Yuuji's hands and slashed at another one of those spider curses that landed from the ceiling. The swipe caught it in the face, purple liquid squirting out of the wound. Not wasting any time, he used chakra to propel himself up, kneeing it in the face, disorienting it. Yuuji performed a back handspring on his shoulders and punched it using all the force he could muster. Geez, could have warned me before taking my blade, Yuuji commented. Naruto smirked at him before tossing him a shuriken. Wanna try? He offered. Yuuji examined the shuriken. Why not? Let's see if I'm good at throwing these things, he said, grinning widely as the curse let out a screech and charged him. He threw the shuriken with all the force he could muster, much like how he would throw a baseball, except, he was actually throwing to kill something. And boy, while that throw didn't quite land on its intended target, the head, it did catch the curse in the chest with so much force that the shuriken actually popped out of the other side of the curse and embedded itself into the wall behind it. Naruto simply gaped at Yuuji, who rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I missed. I think the curse would disagree, Naruto replied flatly as the spider-like being thrashed about in understandable agony. Deciding to end this, Naruto jumped up high and landed on the curse's back, using chakra to stick to it. Usually, it's impossible to stick to living bodies, however, No one and nothing in this world had chakra, meaning that he could literally stick to anyone and anything. With a devious grin, Naruto overloaded the chakra output in his feet. Much like how he used to the first time he tried tree walking when he was a child. It was a simple, yet very effective trick that wouldn't have worked in his world. Of course, no human would be easy to stick to, but it was theoretically possible. The result was an explosion underneath his feet that sent him flying a few feet, though he landed gracefully on his feet. The curse roared, with Naruto frowning, realizing that only concentrated chakra attacks from him were going to exorcise the curses, not small blasts of it. With an annoyed huff, the clone turned to Yuuji. "Throw a kunai at him," he said, tossing one to him. "Why?" "Just trust me," he said, grinning. He held his hand in front of him, Yuuji, and even the curse pausing to look at the sound of swirling air as a bright blue ball formed a few centimeters above Naruto's hand. Naruto rushed towards it and with a battle cry, tried to thrust the attack into the curse's belly. As he had expected, the curse dodged it. Naruto turned midway to look at Yuuji with sharp eyes and a pointed look. Yuuji, obligingly, took aim and threw the kunai with as much accuracy as he could muster. It missed, with the curse dodging the throw, but barely. Naruto focused on the kunai before the kunai vanished in a puff of smoke and in its place was Naruto. Before the curse could even try to dodge, Naruto thrust the ball of chakra into the curse's body. Rasengan. The curse let out an almighty roar, but there was nothing it could do as the attack burrowed its way deep into its belly, shearing away its skin, muscular, and even its bones. The spirit fell over, twitching a few times before vanishing completely. Whoa, Yuuji could only gape with wide eyes. That's the most basic form of the Rasengan, Naruto boasted, dusting off his clothes. They were brand new, that was fun. They heard a yelp from upstairs. "Kugasaki, Naruto, boss," the two yelled, with the clone Naruto vanishing in a plume of smoke. Yuuji stared in surprise for a few seconds before shaking it off and rushing towards the top floor where the original Naruto and Nobara were having a battle with a curse of their own. While Yuuji and clone Naruto were battling the two curses downstairs, the original Naruto and Nobara had entered the top floor room, which was just as decrepit as the rest of the building. Their attention was instantly caught by the mannequins that were at the back of the room. "Well, alrighty then," Naruto said, his blue eyes trailing the room. "If I was a curse, where would I hide?" He mused. "You wouldn't hide, you'd attack straight away like an idiot," Nobara snarked. "What's with you today?" Naruto yelled, ignoring Kurama's, "She's got you there, brat, and how'd you know anyway? You've only met me today." "You look like the type," Nobara replied with a smirk. Anyways, her eyes suddenly zeroed in on the middle mannequin. "How long are you gonna hide in there?" She reached inside her pocket to pull out a hammer and a few nails. "Are those your weapons?" Naruto asked curiously. "No, I planned on doing some carpentry." "Of course, it's my weapon," she replied impatiently, "and the curse in the mannequin, you better come out or I'll exorcise you as you are," she threatened. Naruto sighed, then shrugged and pulled out a kunai. Taking aim, he threw it directly at the mannequin's forehead. "Well, looks like you were wrong, Kugasaki," he mocked, looking at her as the mannequin showed no signs of being a cursed spirit. Nobara scoffed at him before holding up 3 nails and hammering them straight into the curse's head, all 3 of them landing around the kunai. The ninja was about to say something when, seemingly reaching its limit, the curse manifested itself, with eyes forming on the head of the mannequin. Naruto shivered dramatically at that. Nobara cast a smug look at him. "The nails are infused with my cursed energy," she explained. Smirking as they both heard the nails digging deeper into the wooden head of the mannequin until the head snapped off of it. Naruto looked at the orange-haired girl with awe. "That was awesome. I can't believe I thought you were scary. You're totally cool, Datbeo," he exclaimed. Nobara raised an eyebrow, before grinning. Damn right I am, she said cockily. A noise at the back of the room caught their attention. Must be the kid, she commented with Naruto nodding. He quickly rushed over, shoving the headless mannequin out of the way, causing the child to whimper. Naruto gave him a reassuring smile, kneeling down in front of him. Hey there, little buddy. I know you're scared, but we're here to help you, he said sweetly, raising both his hands in an "I won't hurt you" gesture. The child whimpered once again and shied away from him, causing Naruto to gape in shock while Nobara laughed, walking towards them both. What's with that simpering, Uzumaki? It's a kid, not an infant, she said jokingly. Well, you try it then, if you think you'd be that good at it, he grumbled, moving back, but just before he could, the kid cried out. Wait, don't leave me here, he exclaimed before letting out a gargled sound as a curse suddenly rocketed out of the wall and grabbed him by the neck, holding him up like a piece of meat that he's about to devour, flying high up into the air above the two teens. Naruto and Nobara exchanged a quick look of horror, and they heard snickering. Both of them looked up. It was the curse that was laughing at them. An intelligent curse, was Nobara's thought. Put that kid down, now, Naruto yelled, making to jump at it. Don't charge, you idiot. The moment you attack, the curse will kill him, Nobara yelled, raising her hands in surrender. Put the kid down. We're unarmed, she said to the curse through her teeth. The curse, however, didn't seem like it would be letting go of him anytime soon, tightening its grip and making him cry out in pain. Naruto gaped at her as she looked at him pointedly. He narrowed his eyes. What do I do? The inspiration came to him rather easily. Kurama. Fucking finally, the mighty being of chakra said with a sharp grin. Nobara had narrowed her eyes. I wanted to Sori-chan once again, at least, she mused internally before the sudden burst of energy from her side caught her attention. Before she could even blink, Naruto had vanished in a blur. Did he vanish? But how? All I saw was a flash of gold. The curse looked about wildly, then its entire head distorted in shape. Nobara looked up sharply at the impact and gasped in surprise. Naruto's entire body was glowing a bright golden color. His pupils were slitted, much like that of a fox's, and the whisker-like markings that she had until now thought were scars, were thicker, resembling three thick, straight lines. And his clothes have shifted from a simple orange t-shirt and pants combo to a long cloak with strange black markings. The curse's head caved in as Naruto had kicked it much like one would kick a football. The child let out a cry as the curse dropped him. A long, golden arm suddenly extended out of Naruto's body, catching the kid before he could fall down to the ground. In a sudden plume of smoke, another Naruto manifested beside him. The original reappeared beside Nobara in a flash of light as the clone grinned, holding out his hand. I'm gonna show off for the lady and you're gonna be my test dummy. K, he murmured to the curse that had recovered enough to turn around and swipe at him angrily. Two more long hands made out of golden chakra emerged out of clone Naruto's back and began to make seemingly random motions above the clone's hand. Nobara grimaced when she heard a loud, screeching sound of the wind as a ball of bright blue chakra appeared in his hands. Eat this. Fuden. Rasengan. The clone roared, slamming it into the curse. Outside, Satoru was just explaining to Megumi how this was Nobara's test, to see if she had the craziness that was seemingly required for this job. Then the side of the building went kaboom. Both of them gaped as a massive hole appeared at the top floor window, and once the smoke cleared, they saw a golden, glowing figure. It took them both several seconds to realize that it was Naruto, grinning like a loon. What the hell is this guy? Nobara and the child stared with their mouth agape as the original Naruto laughed triumphantly, devious though you may be. You are simply no match for the sheer godlike greatness that is Uzumaki Naruto, Datbeo. He said, hands on his hips and giving the lady and the kid a thumbs up. To his surprise, the cloak then instantly turned itself off. He blinked, looking at his hands. Yep, they were no longer glowing the typical yellow of the Kyuubi's chakra cloak, or as he had dubbed it, Kyuubi Chakra Mode. Kurama, what? I have no idea what happened. The fox admitted, looking highly confused himself. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking. I feel tired. Are you okay? Naruto asked, very concerned, entering his mindscape to look at him. What's happening, Kurama? Hey, answer me. Shut up, the Kyuubi yelled, making Naruto flinch. I don't know, okay. I need to think about this. Go away. Kurum. Naruto was violently expelled from his mindscape and the strongest-tailed beast didn't answer any of his pleas. What was happening? He didn't feel any different, he felt the same as he always had. Then the wall behind them from where the curse emerged got smashed in. All three of them turned around. What now? Nobara thought in hysterical annoyance. To her surprise, emerging from the other side of the wall was a fist. Yuuji's fist to be exact. What just happened? The whole building shook and I fell on my face. He yelled. Indeed, on his forehead was a red mark. Nobara recovered quickly enough to stand up and give Naruto a good smack on the head. Ow, the fuck was that for? He demanded, a tick mark on his forehead. Annoyed at both her and at Kurama for not explaining what was happening to him. You dumbass, how do you think we're gonna explain that huge-ass explosion to the common folk? She yelled back. Naruto flinched before flushing slightly in embarrassment and realization. Yeah, how are they going to explain that? You're telling me that you used a technique to cause that, Yuuji said, shocked at the destruction and very disappointed at having missed it. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I didn't really think it through. He admitted, putting his concerns for Kurama away for now. But hey, we did it. He said cheerfully. A sentiment neither of the two or the child, for that matter, seemed to share. Come on. I saved you, he whined. It was very cool, Ni-san. The kid had stars in his eyes as he looked up at Naruto, seemingly recovering from his shock. Don't feed his ego, Nobara sighed, before yelping rather girlishly as their sensei appeared in front of them suddenly. Megumi was by his side, looking at Naruto with clear, undisguised awe. What the hell did you do? Satoru whistled, looking at the utter destruction. Actually, don't answer that yet. Let's get out of here before the police come. Grab onto me, he instructed. Come on, do it. He insisted when none of them moved. Naruto shrugged, grabbing onto Satoru's arm while Nobara and Yuuji did the same, with Nobara holding onto the kid's hand. Megumi grabbed Satoru's arm as well and by the time they heard the sirens, Satoru teleported them all out of there, no suspicion raised. My house is other there, thanks for saving me, Nei-chan, Ni-san. The child beamed at the two, as they waved slightly. Right, I'll take him home. Naruto, don't worry, you're not in any trouble, but I'd like to talk to you. Later, Satoru said with a smile, placing the kid on his shoulders, much to his delight. Unsurprising, since he probably had a great view from up top. The 4 teens stared after Satoru before his 3 students turned to the lone blonde, who blinked. What? He asked, confused. How did you do that? Yuuji was the first to ask. Naruto looked around him before extending his hand in front of him, palm up. This is the Rasengan. It's a technique my old man created. To put it in the most basic terms, it is a ball made out of pure chakra that is spinning in multiple directions at the same time, he explained. Ooh, I saw that. You used one to exorcise a curse downstairs. Yuuji exclaimed with childlike glee. Yep, I know, Naruto said, grinning at the pink-haired boy's look of surprise. When my clones dispel, I learn everything they learn, he said. That is so cool, Yuuji said with stars in his eyes. That's not what you used to exorcise that curse. It was bigger and was a darker blue with a ring around it. You were glowing yellow, too. Nobara protested, hands on her hips. Gojo-sensei, and I saw that as well through that hole you made, Megumi agreed with Nobara. Naruto held up a finger, all right, in order. What you saw, Kugasaki-chan, was still a Rasengan, but a special variant of it that I made. It's called Fuden, Rasengan. It is a Rasengan, but with wind chakra infused in it, making it much stronger. There's a stronger version of even this called Fuden, Rasenshuriken, but it's probably better if I don't show it here. It makes a lot of noise and is very destructive, he said, preening under the odd looks they shot him. And the glow? Megumi asked promptly. That's what I call the Kyuubi Chakra Mode. It's a transformation of mine that I get when I use Kurama's chakra, he said, hiding a frown at the mention of his tenant. Kurama still hadn't talked to him, and when Naruto entered his mindscape, the tailed beast was sleeping. That wasn't exactly odd, he supposed, but he was concerned that Kurama actually felt tired after a single use of the cloak. He had, after all, used it for hours on end while he was fighting Madara, Obito, and Kagaya. Damn, Yuuji said after several moments of silence, why do I get the feeling that it's not all you can do? Trust your instincts, they don't lie. Naruto grinned foxily at him. Well, I'm not happy. All eyes turned to Nobara, who crossed her arms and glared at Naruto. You showed off a lot, but didn't let me show off. It was a delicate situation, Naruto lamely protested. And you, she rounded on Yuuji, who flinched. How the hell did you punch through a concrete wall? What did they feed you, huh? It wasn't reinforced, he tried to say. You also threw one of my shurikens so hard that it went through the curse all the way and embedded itself into the wall on the other side. Naruto exclaimed, snapping his fingers in remembrance. Yuuji had no chakra in his body, no second circulatory system, either. And from what he could tell, he hadn't used any cursed energy either. That would mean that he had thrown that shuriken using only his normal physical strength. Now that is impressive as hell. He can throw a ball with enough force to cross 30 meters, Megumi said, causing both Nobara and Naruto to turn to him in shock. It's true. I've seen it. Yuuji blushed when both of them turned to him. Yeah, he mumbled. Yosh, boys, and girl. Satoru suddenly appeared next to them, making them all jump slightly. I escorted the kid back home, and I have decided to treat you all as part of a job well done, he said cheerfully. Steak. Sushi. Ramen, Naruto said, his blue eyes wide with glee. He hadn't had ramen ever since he landed in this world, and while he doubted it'd be as good as Ichiraku's, he'd take any ramen right now. And you, Megumi? Satoru asked the raven-haired boy, who pulled out his phone and ignored him. Are you pouting, Megumi-chan? He cooed. What, are you upset that you didn't get to see Uzumaki's technique? Nobara teased. Or are you upset that you didn't get any action? Naruto added fuel to the flame, sneering at him playfully. Don't worry, Fushiguro, we'll make sure you're not left out when you fight next time, Yuuji said cheerfully with a smile, patting the boy on his shoulder, causing him to grunt. Shoving the hand away, his eye twitching in annoyance. Why was he stuck on a team with such chippy and loud people? XXXXX. Satoru and Naruto walked toward Principal Yaga's office. Nobara, Megumi, and Yuuji insisted on accompanying him there, but Satoru convinced them all that it will be fine, so they had reluctantly gone back to their dorms. It'll be all right, Naruto, Yuuji had assured the blonde, who didn't seem nervous at all. Just be true to yourself and you'll be fine. Really, doesn't your principal know I'm a ninja? Like, I dealt with death all the time in my world. I'm more than capable of handling whatever you guys got to throw at me, Datbeo. Naruto commented. Satoru grinned. I might have neglected to mention that you're a ninja. Eventually, they reached Yaga's door. Satoru didn't bother knocking, he simply opened the door and entered. Naruto blinked at how dark the room was in. "You're late, Satoru." Again, the deep, intimidating voice of Principal Yaga. The man was huge and bulky with a goatee and sunglasses. And he was stitching dolls. Naruto tried not to snort. "Don't be so dismissive, I sense that same vile energy from those dolls." "Ah, you're awake, how are you feeling?" Better. I still don't know what happened. Anyway, focus on them for now." "So this is him, huh?" The man turned to look at him, and Naruto didn't even flinch, grinning brightly at him. "Yo, I'm Uzumaki Naruto Datbeo." Yaga looked back at him, unimpressed. "You're the chakra user," he said flatly. His choice of words caught Naruto's attention. "You say that like you've met people like me before," Naruto remarked casually, trying not to sound too eager. Satoru stood behind him, arms crossed, paying rapt attention to what was being said. Yaga grunted. "About 20 years ago, I came across a man with strange red eyes with 3 tomos in them." Naruto's head snapped up at his words. A Sharingan user had been here, and Yaga had met him. He called himself Uchiha Kagami, and he was gravely injured. One of his arms was mangled and he was paralyzed from the waist down. He told me that he had found himself here after using a technique called Kamui. He paused. "Judging by your reaction, you know him." "I don't know him," Naruto replied, trying to keep his voice level, "but I know the Uchiha clan. The red eyes with the 3 tomos that you saw, that's what is called the Sharingan, a powerful bloodline of the Uchihas. Kamui is a technique of an advanced form of the Sharingan that allows access to another dimension. I fought a man that had it, and my own sensei, Hitaki Kakashi, had it." "That's what he said too," Yaga said, leaning back to look at the teen carefully. "He was polite, and told us about his world, the world of the shinobi," he said. "Where is he?" Naruto asked abruptly and rather rudely, but he couldn't help it. He could help him, maybe even send him back to his world. "I don't know," Yaga replied flatly, watching the way the teen deflated, his eyes dimming. "He didn't keep in contact after he left, promising that he won't interfere with our business. However, I do know someone who does." "Oh," Naruto breathed. "I will contact them for you. However, I wouldn't get my hopes up, if I were you. If he could send you back to your world, he would have gone back himself," Yaga said coldly, and Naruto grimaced. "Yeah, but I wanna try, Datbeo." Yaga stared at him for a few seconds asking, "How old are you?" Naruto nearly fell over at the seemingly random question. 17, he answered slowly. "Well, in that case, you can't be a first year," Yaga said. "Satoru, show him to the second-year dorms." "What, just like that?" Satoru asked the man in mock surprise, though he narrowed his eyes underneath his blindfold at the way the man instantly said second year. As if this was planned from the start. You aren't going to ask him hard-hitting questions that make him question himself as to why he would put himself in danger. Aren't you going to punch the shit out of him with your cursed corpses? They aren't actual corpses, Naruto-kun, don't worry, he assured the boy, who had a look of horror on his face as he looked at the dolls. "No, he's a shinobi. He's used to danger, death, and gore. Throwing away his skill just because he might not want to help people would be a waste," Yaga replied flatly. "Besides, he reminds me of Kagami." Naruto simply looked between the two, bewildered. "I mean, I'm grateful, but why, old man Yaga?" Naruto asked with a frown. "It's Yaga-sensei to you," Yaga ground out, feeling like he was going to be very annoyed by the blonde in coming times, and also, "You're going to explain to me exactly what you were thinking nearly blowing up that building?" The glare he sent Naruto made the blonde pale. Satoru shook his head in disbelief before chuckling. Yep, this were about to get very interesting with Naruto around. He can't wait to see the second year's reaction to Naruto joining them. That'll be a riot, especially with Naruto's sunny, loud, and less intelligent attitude that was going to clash wildly against Maki's. He had a feeling Toge was going to love him though, being the little troll that he is. Yes, very interesting indeed. But guys, I'm gonna end it off right here. If you guys like the video, make sure to hit that like button and drop a sub. But with that out of the way, I'm out and I will see you in the next video. Stay blessed, fam.